Hello and welcome. Central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, are the topic of significant and often heated discussion throughout the financial world, and they've become the focus of a deeply concerned public. It's essential for everyone to fully understand the potential dangers inherent with CBDCs, as they herald far-reaching implications for the global financial system while threatening a clear and present danger to privacy and individual freedoms. CBDCs are designed with high traceability, meaning every transaction is closely monitored and forensically traced by central banks and other nefarious parties. While this might be a legitimate tool to combat illegal activities, it can never justify obliterating individual privacy. Aside from that, most heinous criminal activities derive from central banks in the first place. Growing concern focuses on the extent to which all financial transactions are surveilled with an invasive technology that grossly infringes upon personal freedoms and violates privacy. The digital nature of CBDCs makes them susceptible to cyber attacks and technical failures. Hardly a day goes by without reports of hacking and security breaches, resulting in the loss of funds and sensitive personal information, exposing entire communities to financial risks. While CBDCs offer minor utility, they incur the prohibitive cost of excluding individuals without access to the necessary technology or digital literacy. This digital divide exacerbates economic disparities and limits financial freedom for significant segments of the population. CBDCs are issued and tightly controlled by central banks, which means they have controlling power across all financial systems. Such concentrated centralisation will be misused, leading to further overreach and control over individuals' finances. Central banks will implement negative interest rates more easily with CBDCs. While this is touted as a tool to stimulate economic activity, it punishes savers and raises concerns about the erosion of personal wealth while eradicating financial freedom. The introduction of CBDCs requires increased coordination among central banks to maintain stability in the global financial system. Lack of coordination or disagreements among central banks would trigger economic instability and financial risks. CBDCs would shift funds from commercial bank deposits to CBDC accounts, dramatically reducing the resources available for lending and disrupting traditional banking systems everywhere. Central banks wielding the power to issue CBDCs at will and without constraints present an unacceptable risk of excessive money supply leading to inflation. This, in turn, irrevocably erodes the value of savings and investments, affecting financial stability. Any introduction of CBDCs demands a robust legal and regulatory framework that's impossible to implement given the current state of systemic corruption. Ambiguities or lack of clarity in regulations create uncertainty and financial risks for individuals and businesses. It's essential to closely scrutinise all unsolicited developments relating to the digital slavery of CBDCs. The glaring menace I'm outlining here will obliterate financial freedom and the last vestiges of personal privacy. Demanding hard and fast privacy protections while closely monitoring how gangster banks try to force this fiscal fascism of CBDCs is essential. Banks must not succeed with such tyrannical levels of control, which amounts to a digital prison from which there's no escape. This horror story has already unfolded in China, where people can't even purchase items from vending machines without first smartphone scanning for access. No admittance to supermarkets or retail outlets unless this digital mark of the beast grants permission. And even then, if social credit scores are less than stellar, access will be flatly denied, and gangs of armed military police will be instantly alerted to your attempted actions and precise location. The appalling concept of a social credit score has gained traction, with various countries implementing systems that assign citizens a digital score based on cowed conformity. Punishing conditions imposed by social credit systems are wholly incompatible with a free and open society, representing the worst possible form of oppressive dictatorship. These credit score systems are deceptively touted as encouraging responsible behaviour, which is hypocrisy since they irresponsibly impose intrusive mechanisms for monitoring and evaluating citizens' actions online and offline. While establishment proponents ludicrously argue that these systems contribute to a more conscientious society, no such slippery banalities can justify the erosion of privacy and individual freedoms. Various factors, including financial behaviour, social interactions, and adherence to government policies, determine social credit scores. For example, timely payment of bills, tame social media usage, and unquestioning compliance with unjust laws positively impact one's score. In contrast, late payments, online dissent, or criticising oppressive regulations impose a decrease or worse. Implementing a social credit system has inescapable consequences for individuals whose scores fall below an arbitrarily dictated threshold. These repercussions extend beyond financial limitations, including restricted access to services, travel restrictions, and limited educational or job opportunities. In other words, targeted victims can be frozen out from society and cruelly denied all inalienable freedoms at the push of a button. This unacceptable degree of control creates a society where conformity and cowardice are rewarded, and dissent is brutally punished. Social credit systems are an anathema to those who value freedom of speech. The fear of reprisal for expressing dissenting opinions leads to self-censorship, stifling the diversity and free exchange of ideas within a society. The essence of freedom of speech, a fundamental right and principle many cherish, is threatened when individuals feel pressured to conform to the prevailing narrative to avoid negative social credit implications. China's monstrous social credit system has garnered international condemnation for its scale and scope. While some countries have adopted something similar, there are varying degrees of implementation, meeting widespread public resistance. Australia's wider community is seriously concerned about the inevitable abuse of power and the erosion of privacy accompanying such systems. Advancements in technology have facilitated the development and the implementation of communistic social credit score systems. Artificial intelligence and big data analytics collect and analyse vast amounts of information to assign scores with little or no human oversight. The ethical implications of such technology, including data security and the potential for bias, remain central to the ongoing debate. As social credit systems encroach ever further, it's essential to understand the restrictive conditions they impose. The global controversy surrounding these systems ignites ongoing debates about their ethical implications and our society's threatened capture and ultimate subjugation by AI. While AI has many benefits, it must never be allowed to gain authority or assume any senior management role, or supposing it hasn't already, which is far from certain. In the annals of political history, totalitarian dictatorships that CBDCs empower stand out as ominous embodiments of absolute control, marked by suppression, excessive regulation, and the eradication of individual rights and freedoms. The perils of a CBDC-empowered dictatorship present profound threats to society's freedom and the very essence of humanity. Totalitarian regimes like China thrive on systematic curtailment of individual liberties. Citizens find themselves ensnared in a web of restrictions on freedom of speech, assembly, and expression. The ruthless suppression of dissent is the hallmark of oppression, where disagreement garners severe and often lethal consequences. In such an environment, the flourishing of creativity, innovation, and individuality is stifled. Totalitarian regimes master the art of manipulating information and controlling the narrative to suit their agenda. Independent journalism and free media are the first casualties, replaced by state-controlled propaganda machines. This manipulation distorts reality and undermines the foundation of an informed and vigilant citizenry, the cornerstone of a healthy democracy. Totalitarian leaders often cultivate a cult of personality, projecting themselves as infallible figures whose self-serving dictates are beyond question. This authoritarian approach leads to the concentration of power in the hands of a single individual or a small elite, with dire consequences for populations at their mercy. The absence of accountability fosters an environment ripe for corruption and abuse of power, as witnessed throughout the COVID scam. Totalitarian regimes rely heavily on pervasive state surveillance to monitor and control populations. Citizens live under constant scrutiny, fostering an atmosphere of perpetual anxiety and self-censorship. The relentless erosion of privacy infringes upon fundamental human rights and undermines the trust essential for a healthy and vibrant society. Totalitarian regimes homogenize society by brutally suppressing cultural and intellectual diversity. Dissenters, intellectuals, and artists are targeted, leading to a chilling effect on the creative and intellectual landscape. This stifles societal progress and results in a monolithic conformist culture devoid of the richness that diverse perspectives bring. The perils of totalitarian dictatorships are multifaceted and deeply impactful. They jeopardize the fundamental principles of freedom, democracy, and human rights. In the face of such threats, defending freedom becomes not just a preference but an imperative moral and ethical obligation. We must emphatically resist this perilous encroachment of dictatorship, standing steadfast in the defence of individual liberties and enduring values that define our shared humanity. Only through a collective commitment to these principles can we defeat the current dictatorship and secure a future built on freedom, justice, and the dignity of every individual. We will win out in the end. I simply just can't tell you when. Thank you for watching.